All good, no problem, mate. All good.
But James, thank you so much for getting out of your bed, same as myself, making a little bit of time on a Saturday morning to speak to myself about all things music. We'll talk about music for yourself. Of course, we'll talk about the band, and we'll talk about everything else that fits in between. But before that, though, how are you actually doing?
Yeah, I'm doing all right, thank you. Again, it's sort of it's stressful times at the moment. In terms of it feels like it's harder than ever for people to promote new music just because there's so much going on, like whether it's like just world events or just like kind of constant stimuli from like all the videos on social media and stuff of just different things. So it's a little bit stressful when you're trying to like get people to listen to an album you spent a couple of years making, but other than that, I'm good. I can't really complain. Like, no complaints.
It's a double-edged sword because in one way, with the internet, with the way the world is now, you can discover music from all over the world that if it was 30 years ago, there's never a chance you would have discovered a wee band from America or Australia. But at the same time, that there's so much out there now. How do you make yourself noticed? Because there's so much. It's a double-edged sword. But I'm glad that you're doing it anyway, though. But what I do with all the guests is I go back to the very beginning. So for yourself, James, where originally were you brought up? Where are you from?
So I'm from a little town called Pontyclun in Wales. So it's near Pontypridd, which is probably the more well-known place because of the likes of Tom Jones and stuff.
Okay. And I was going to say,
Welsh Valley.
From a young age, were you exposed to music? And if so, where did that come from? Was that parents or siblings? And what type of music were you exposed to from a young age?
I don't. My parents weren't massively into music. Like they liked music, but they weren't massively into music. But I think the thing that really got me into it was the sort of high school I went to. There were lots of kids like a few years older playing like covers and stuff, and it was around the time that it was sort of the early 2000s. Maybe sort of it would have been about 2005, and there was a lot of Welsh bands that were setting kind of the world alight. Whether it was sort of indie stuff like the Manic Street Preachers or like Super Furry Animals or Stereophonics, or then like metal stuff like Bullet Up for My Valentine and Funeral for a Friend and stuff like that. There was quite a lot of there was a lot of excitement around the fact that there were these Welsh bands that were playing to like massive crowds in other countries and really putting Wales on the map.
Yeah, it's a little bit like Scotland at the moment. It's always been there, but at the moment there's this. It's called trad music, so you would expect it to be like fiddles and all the sort of like the music from the Highlands, but it's jumped over into it's popular now. But
really?
there's a sort of crossover because it's not quite as old as it used to sound, and there's a bit of a modern twist on it. But it's always been there. But it's probably in the last 10, 15 years it's went massive. It's just absolutely huge, and it's starting to go outside of Scotland as well. So it's really nice to see Scottish bands doing well for themselves. It would be the same for yourself.
Yeah, totally. And I think it was just a really exciting time. And then when you sort of discover that these bands like live like 10 minutes down the road from you and have like a similar sort of life experience, it makes it all more I don't know, just exciting that you could do something like that. Because I think I remember because a lot of my music taste was kind of formed from like watching stuff like Kerrang and Skuz on the telly, and the majority of that was like American bands. So it was quite easy as a young kid to just assume that kind of music only really happens in like America on like a way bigger scale. So then to find that it was happening, in our local town was really exciting.
Yeah, it makes it a little bit more realistic.
Mm-hmm.
Probably.
Totally.
I think I'm probably about 10 years ahead of you in age, so, but it was the same thing. I was the early 90s, 93, 94, and it was all the grunge bands
Oh
coming
yeah,
out.
of course,
But of
yeah.
course, it was all Seattle, and then obviously there was the bands from LA and San Francisco and all that sort of thing. So it's kind of similar, but similar to yourself, and a lot of the guests have probably said the same, that they start to discover their own musical taste. Usually when they get to about 11 or 12, when they're starting high school.
Yeah, I'd say that's about right.
Yeah. Who were some of the first kind of big bands that you started to discover that kind of maybe awoke something in you that you didn't realise was there before?
I think my first like obsession was the metal band Bullet for My Valentine, because they were very much like a gateway, like gateway to like heavy music, I suppose, because they still had the kind of sort of like pop sensibility and stuff underneath. So and it was heavy, but it wasn't like it wasn't crazy heavy. Like it wasn't to the point where it would have scared me off at that age. But then through that, you kind of do the thing, and you I think you well, say the singer of that band will then be wearing like a Machine Head shirt, or like a something slightly kind of more
Yeah.
deep into the niche. So like you kind of end up like adopting your favorite bands, because you go back and you kind of like trace like the sort of lineage of like all that kind of music. So I got really into metal. So I loved like stuff like Machine Head, and I loved like gosh, it's a long time ago, but yeah, it was I loved like a lot of the stuff on like Roadrunner Records. Like I got really into like Sepultura, and I got really into things like Fear Factory and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There was a really great DVD at the time, an album and DVD that came out called Roadrunner United, and it was all the metal bands on Roadrunner came together and did like a compilation records. And
Yeah, I don't know exactly. It's all
yeah,
the same band that some of them I still love to this day.
oh,
And
cool.
it just sounds like my childhood you're talking about.
There we go. Great.
I know, and I know the one you're talking about. They kind of all came together and they would do like cover songs of some of them. It was the bands that they were in, and other ones, and it was just cool to see them all united as friends, basically just jamming on stage. It was pretty cool.
Yeah,
To
definitely.
But give me a wee laugh, James. What was the first professional concert that you ever attended, and whereabouts was it?
So it's funny actually. The very first one. It's not the coolest answer. The very first one was the Busted, when I was probably like in year five. The boy band with Charlie Simpson and whoever else was in it. But they had that song, the year 3000, and
Yeah,
that was probably when I was like in primary school. I must have been like maybe like 10 or 11. But then I told the story the other day. It's my first sort of concert that was totally different from that was I went to see. I think after Busted, I probably went to about three or four more gigs in the arena as I was sort of in early high school. So like big gigs where the band is like all the way over there and you're
yeah,
sat, kind of all the way over here. And then maybe when I was probably about 15, I ended up going to like my first hardcore show. And that couldn't have been any different, because I went to see the band Terror play in Cardiff. And it was crazy because it was the first time I'd ever been to a show where the band and the crowd were sort of on the same kind of level, if you know what I mean.
yeah,
And
yeah.
there was like stage diving, and uh, the singer would give the mic out to people to like sing lyrics back, and that really like I think that like totally changed everything for me. That's when I became like obsessed with music, I think.
Yeah, that sounds like I seen Sepultura back in the 90s, and it was like that. Like, I think there was security there, but you were certainly allowed to jump from the crowd onto the stage, jump back
Yeah,
off. And if there was security there, they must have been sitting at the bar having a drink, because I don't remember seeing any, but it was quite cool. But am I right in saying, are you playing guitar and singing?
Yes, yeah, this is the first band where I've played guitar and sung, though. I used to play bass in bands before this.
Right. So, well, first of all, which one came first? Was it playing the guitar? Did singing come later, or did they happen around the same time?
So I started. I've always had a guitar. Like guitar was my first instrument when I was like 11. Although I never really had very good attention span, so I did like two or three lessons, and the guy I was going to, the local guy, he was like, "Oh, this guy is like hopeless." Like he's like, he kind of told my mum to like save her money. However, one thing that did happen, that I'll touch on briefly, when one thing that he did pick up on that was kind of interesting is, um, he had me like learning this song. I remember it was like a bit from, it was a bit from Whiskey in the Jar, like the Thin Lizzy sort of
Yeah,
cover,
yeah,
and he was teaching me like the correct way to play it, and my mind was just zoning off and not really listening. I was there like, you know, when you're a young kid holding an electric guitar, there's just no chance you can get them to concentrate. You're kind of there
yeah,
fiddling around, touching all the buttons and stuff. Um, the next week I came in, and I'd ended up learning the song by sort of ear in like a totally different area of the guitar. It was almost like my own like take on it, if that makes
yeah,
sense. And the guy said to my mum, he said, "Oh, look, this kid's useless. Like you know, you might as well save your money." But one thing that is really interesting is he's like learned this song by ear, so he's definitely got like an ear for music. So maybe
yeah,
try him again in a few years when he can concentrate. So um, that was as far as I got with guitar, but I had one in my room then for like the next 10 years, and I would tinker with it every now and again. Um, but I actually, my first proper band, I ended up playing bass because there was a great local metal band, and I went to go see them, and they didn't have a bassist, and I figured that my limited skills on guitar might lend themselves more to bass. In my mind, it was like
yeah, yeah.
it's no slight on bassists, but at the time I was like, oh, it's just four-string guitar. That'll be a little bit,
Easier.
easier to follow along. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I play the guitar, and I'm probably like yourself. I think I can play bass until I sit down with a bass player, and then I
Oh yeah.
realise I'm a guitarist pretending to be a bass player.
Totally, totally. Yeah, yeah. There's definitely a whole different art to bass, and
I mean, I
some
can
people.
certainly follow the chord pattern on a bass guitar, but it's when you sit down with an actual bass player and they think up how the chords connect and they do these bass runs that it would just never enter my mind because I'm a guitarist, I'm not a bass player. It's a
Yeah,
bit.
yeah. I feel that.
And
I feel that.
what about singing then? Did singing come later on?
Yeah, singing came much later on. As in, this is the first band that I've ever sung in. Like our first song that we released was the first time I'd ever sung. And
How, why did that come around? Was it simply the band needed a singer and were you brave enough to step in front of the microphone?
it's funny. I've always fancied doing it, but never had the confidence until more recently. So I was in a band that was like my career before this band. So I played bass in a band called Holding Absence that were um, kind of like a post-hardcore poppy rocky sort of thing. And I was playing bass in that for probably about 5 years, and touring all the time and stuff. And over time, I was like, oh, you know what? I wouldn't mind having a go at singing at some point. And this band, like James and the Colgan, was supposed to just be like a side project for me, really, to have a crack at singing,
Yeah, yeah,
and just kind of, it felt like I had some stuff I wanted to get out, like some lyrics of my own, and that the singer in my old band wasn't really interested in, he quite liked to just do his thing, which is totally understandable. But there was this itch that felt like I needed to scratch, and I just ended up doing it, and ended up enjoying it so much that I sort of ended up having to make the decision to make it the full time thing.
it's a great thing, but I've seen it's funny. I've seen like there's so many people I've seen that you get great drummers, guitarists, bass players, all that sort of thing. But the singing is one of those instruments that, of course, you need to have some type of ability, but part of it, or a huge part of it, is confidence, which you can't teach. And I've seen it hold so many people back because you know that they're good singers, but they don't have the confidence. And it's if you can find that confidence and go for it, some people, they just discover that they've got this voice that they were never aware of. But
Yeah, yeah.
hard one, you can't teach someone confidence. That you've either got to go for it and get comfortable with doing it, or you don't get comfortable doing it and you shy away and you end up probably not doing it.
Yeah, totally. I think my advice for anyone looking to get into singing is like it is all confidence, and I always refer to like a lot of people like they'll sing and they'll sing at this level that like isn't really singing, and it's almost like all the good stuff is probably like they'll go to kind of here and then they'll get a bit shy and kind of like
Yeah, they're holding
but
back.
your real voice is like once you pass through that kind of point where you don't care if anyone hears you. But it took me a long time to it took me a long time to get there. I actually used to, when I was first looking to get into it, I would pay like um, quite a bit of money to go to like a local practice room. And it's not cheap. It was like, because usually you'd have like a four-piece band split in it, like
Yeah, yeah,
20,
yeah.
20 quid, 20 quid each or tenner each or whatever. But I would just go on my own with my phone with some songs loaded up because I knew it was soundproofed. It would be my like sort of safe space for an hour to just kind of have a go and see where the limit was and see what it could
Yeah.
do. And I think that's anyone looking to sing. I think they should treat themselves to like an hour in like a soundproof room. And you
Yeah.
you know you could even video yourself back and just sort of get a bit of an idea if you've got it or not. Then
Yeah, I mean, I was probably similar in the sense that I always fancied trying singing. Never knew if I was any good because, of course, when I was younger, I was playing in a metal band. So you're not singing, you're screaming and growling and all that sort of stuff.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I always thought I was like, because I loved the grunge stuff, which was actual singing. And I started off by doing my own demos, recording. So I'm not performing in front of anyone, but I'm doing the singing. The singing is on these demos, but nobody's seen me actually doing it.
Oh
And
right, yeah, yeah.
then it progressed. I actually got me and a friend started playing acoustic covers in the pubs just as a way to make extra money. So I started doing backing singing then, and of course you're just doing your bog standard cover songs that people expect to hear. So over time you start to get used to then performing in front of people, and
Totally.
then during lockdown I switched over to then main vocals, and then
Oh,
that's what I've
cool.
been ever since. But it takes a while to kind of get used to your own voice, to hear your own voice. It's a little bit like when people, if you record someone talking and you play it back
Oh
and they
mate, yeah.
don't sound like that.
Yeah, I hate the sound of my own voice whenever I hear it back. That's funny.
But part of it is just kind of getting used to your own voice, taking it from there. But obviously, fast forwarding, James and Nicole Gunn. So when did the band start? How did it come about? And tell me, who are the members that are in the band, and how did you get them into the band as well?
Well, so it started loosely in 2019. I was at the time I was full time in my old band, doing a lot of touring and making records and stuff. Then I lived with so there's two Jameses in the band. So James Biss who plays the guitar for the most part and sings some of the songs. Um, we were housemates, and we're both massive music lovers. We're in different bands and things, and we thought it'd be fun to just make some music together. It was very much like just a bit of fun to start, and it was with me singing, which was a new thing. Then I was slowly getting kind of less and less into my old band, starting to kind of lose the love for it a little bit. That kind of came to a head during the recording of my old band's second album. We were like away recording, and I just wasn't having a good time. Um, then what actually happened? Then the COVID happened, so the pandemic happened, and we ended up having like a lot of time on our hands. And because I lived with James Biss, we had a lot of time to just kind of jam together and kind of
Yeah.
just, yeah, like 2 years of just kind of being bored. So I ended up playing through like, we would play through really bad covers of loads of those Seattle grunge bands, whether it be like Nirvana or Pearl Jam or whoever. We would just be playing these horrible like covers just to kind of keep ourselves sane. And we were having such a good time doing it. We were like, we should do just like a rock band. We should like,
Yeah.
rather than trying to get too hung up on like trying to be new and like trying to find an angle or a gimmick or something. We were just like, oh, let's just do like an old fashioned. It sounds funny, doesn't it? Like old fashioned band, but like it is in a sense. It is. We're just plugging in guitars, playing loud, and just having fun.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it feels like it's maybe like a dying art in a way,
Yeah. It's
like
quite
a
nice
band just being a band.
taking it back to basics.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's been very rewarding for us. And I think like no matter how our tastes have changed over the years, like we've all had different phases of what we're into. There's rock has always been like the underlying kind of through line. Everything comes back to just rock for us, really. So it feels really authentic. It feels like the band that we were both kind of meant to do, and we're both able to scratch a lot of itches from that band, which is good.
So you've got
Um,
so James 1 and James 2,
yeah,
former flatmates in the band. And then who else do you have in the band? There's four of yous.
yeah. Well, there is. It's a bit of a confusing one, but I'll give you the simplified version. So we for the longest time, as soon as James and the Cold Gun became like a sort of a bit of a proper thing, we were doing tours and stuff, and signed to a label and all that. We we wanted to hit the ground running, lots of touring, but we struggled to find two other people. So we struggled to find a bassist and a drummer who were willing to do it to the level that we both were.
Yeah.
So we had a few people come and go. We've had loads of great people. So we've had a couple of different drummers help us out. We've had a couple of different bass or people who've played bass. Um, However, more recently, about a year ago, we came across Gabby, who's our bassist, who's really great. She's like a total asset to the group, and we decided like after we'd done a few tours with her, because again, she had a different band at the time, and she was only going to do one tour as like a favor to us. But we had such a good time that and I think the feeling was mutual, so we ended up kind of being like, look, do you want to join the band and make this a thing? As far as drummers go, drummers are like rocking horse shit. Like drummers are really hard to
Yeah.
find. So we we've had a couple of people, but we found a guy more recently who might be the full time guy. We're hoping that it feels like every drummer is playing for like five different bands nowadays to try and make ends meet. So
Yeah.
we're just waiting to see if we can convince one of them to kind of make us the main priority.
You sound a wee bit like Spinal Tap. Your
Yeah,
drum.
a little bit. It's
But
it's just brutal at the moment though. It's trying to keep four people's heads above water with a band is just not a thing anymore.
band's a tough one as well, though, because of course you need to have, if it's three or four people, you all need to be of the same sort of talent. Everybody's got to hold their own within the band, but it's the personality thing is plays a part, if not possibly even a bigger part than the talent
Yeah,
side of
I'd say
it.
so.
Trying to find three or four people that you get on enough to then create music. It's a tough one, and it's only once you start playing in bands that it becomes very apparent why a lot of bands don't last. Even the famous ones split up, or the original lineup certainly doesn't last, because it's a tough one to keep together.
Yeah, I think for us, I think at our core we're pretty solid because me and James B lived together for so long,
Yeah,
and also I've already kind of been through the falling out with another band because of like creative differences and stuff, and I never really want that to happen again. So I think going into this band, it was very much like making sure good communication is like at the forefront all the time. I think
Yeah,
like I guess it'd be kind of like if you were in a if you were married to someone and then you divorced, you'd probably take loads of lessons into a new relationship. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like that. It's like I know what things can potentially cause upset, and I know when I need to pull back, but I also know when I need to raise everyone up by saying stuff. You know, it's like being in another really long relationship with multiple people.
yeah. It's like when you think of famous bands, I can't think of that many that have been on the go for a long time. Maybe you two,
Yeah, Pearl Jam's one that comes to mind.
you
Same
two,
same lineup sort of thing.
you two, Green Day, but even Pearl Jam, they've had 3 or 4 different drummers.
Oh yeah, true. Actually, yeah, the drummers. Yeah,
But there's not many bands that have been going for that long. But I mean, it's a testament. But would I be right in saying, is it the two Jameses that are the songwriters with you originally starting that way?
yeah, yeah. For the time being, everything you heard kind of just came from the two of us in the garage, where we kind of do most of our recordings and practices and things. We've spent a lot of hours together, butting our heads and just trying to get the music done. We are excited now. Now that Gabby's joined the band, like she lent her vocal talents to a few songs on the new record, but it was a bit the record was kind of already close to being done when we sort of made it official with her. So we're excited to have a third person coming into the fold for whatever's next, just to kind of like
Yeah.
think bring that element of like fun and just have an outside person with a fresh take. I think it'll be really good for us.
Yeah. So would you be at the moment sort of presenting the demo songs to Gabby and saying, right, this is the chord, and as a bass player, you let her do her thing and to make it sound better, basically?
Yeah, totally. And even like it doesn't have to just stop at bass. It could be like, what do you think of this? Like, do you like,
Yeah.
you know, just anything to do with the songs, really. I think, again, I think when you ask someone to join a band, you're fully kind of, it's our way of being like, yeah, we think you've got really good taste. We think you've got like skills, like that sort of is the ticket to feel free to kind of pick apart anything we give now because you're one of us, sort of thing.
What about when it comes to the actual lyrics? Because there's a lot of times musically a band is quite happy to have everyone input because it hopefully makes the song sound better. But when it comes to singing, sometimes the singer wants to sing their own lyrics and they maybe feel a bit odd about singing someone else's. How does the lyrics come about for the band?
I think, I think I agree with that. I don't think I would. I don't think I would sing someone else's lyrics unless they really resonated with me. For me, everything. I'm one of those annoying kind of types where everything has to mean something, and I think it would be a lot easier if I didn't care about that. Because there are some great songs, like whether it's Nirvana songs or Beatles songs, that are just totally, kind of gibberish. Like it's like.
Yeah.
But for me, everything has to really mean something. I think me and James B again, though, we collaborate quite a lot. Like there'll be times where, whether it's a song that I'm singing or a song that he's singing, there'll be times where like the lyrics are nearly there, and you just need that one other person to kind of, because you're staring. A lot of the time, it feels like you're completing like a jigsaw puzzle,
Yeah.
and your eyes are starting to go a bit like. Kind of out of focus, and they just go, "Oh, it's just this." But yeah, you move this one word, and then that's how we can fit. That's how we can fit it over the phrase of music that we're trying to do. So yeah. In answer to your question, we still collaborate on lyrics, but I think the majority of what I'm singing is stuff that like I've already written down before we get into a room together. He just helps me put it into make sense of the puzzle sometimes, and I do the same for him.
So if I was to read your lyrics separate from the music, would I know exactly what you're talking about, or do you like to make them a little bit more vague that if 10 people were to read your lyrics, 10 people might take away 10 different things?
I think it's probably the latter, but I definitely think I really like I really like sort of like flog myself to like make them. I'd like to think our lyrics are really good. I think I can say that. Like that's one thing I am confident about, and like because I've put so much time in. When the rest of the band are probably like at times I can sense that the rest of the band like, oh, who cares? Like stop. Like like you've spent like 2 weeks on this one line now. But that being said, one of my favorite things is actually when someone. Well, I like both. I like both instances actually. I was going to say my favorite thing is when someone comes up to me and they're like, "Oh, I love this song. It's about this, isn't it?" And I'm like, "What the fuck? Where'd you get that?" I was like, it couldn't be. You've got it totally wrong. But then I'm like, well, actually, they haven't got it wrong. It's their. It's just their interpretation, and it's really cool actually. Sometimes when it's you see what people have picked, what you know. Yeah, just to see how people interpret things differently. But then on the flip side, I also love it when someone interprets it the way that I kind of intended, and it kind of feels like, oh yeah, nice. They got how like line 1 and 3 were sort of. It sounds stupid, but it's kind of like, oh, I did something there, like,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then they kind of validate in that feeling
Oh,
of
yeah,
that.
it almost sort of confirms that you're doing it correct, I suppose.
Yeah, it definitely does. Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, the beauty of it is that there's not a right or a wrong. It's every band is different, and
totally.
that great. But when it comes to the band recording, what is the band's recording process? Do you play live? Do you start with the drums and layer everything on top? What's the preferred way for the band to record?
Well, it's funny. It's funny. We mentioned you mentioned how you're a fan of the Seattle sound earlier on, and we're very much the same. Like our favorite band, our favorite bands collectively are probably like stuff like Soundgarden and Alice in Chains and Mudhoney and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And we were lucky enough to go to Seattle to make our second record. So we went to one of the Pearl Jam guys' studios, and we had this amazing experience. But we actually ended up and we did a lot of that around the drummer. So we did a lot of that kind of like live, like an old kind of I suppose
yeah,
like how bands made records back in the day. Um, However, we ended up we got the mixes back at the Christmas last year, and we ended up just not feeling totally right about them. Like we only had like 5 days to try and do a whole record, and there was this sort of sense of like pressure, and we basically we ended up keeping the drums and the bass from those sessions, but just redoing a lot of the guitars and vocals because we'd
right.
sat with the songs for a bit longer, poured a bit longer. So it was like I always say that like playing live helps you if you get to play an unreleased song or an unrecorded song live, you kind of learn about it as you continue to play it.
Yeah,
So so we did a bit of that. We did a lot of touring between the Seattle studio session and actually finishing the record in the garage. So a lot of the songs kind of transformed and made more sense. So again, we did the first record in this way. We produced it ourselves in the garage, just totally DIY. We kind of ended up doing the second record in the same way after that big Seattle session. We just went straight back into the garage, plugged into really rubbish gear, and just hammered it out.
and so you obviously do writing and recording. You do performing live. See if you had to pick one or the other to do for the rest of your life, which one would you pick?
Oh, that's hard. That's hard because I recently really started to enjoy writing again. I think because the pressures there's no pressure at the moment because we're sitting on a record, and that's a really sweet spot because usually you are kind of usually there is a bit of pressure because you're just trying to. you're trying to follow up the next thing. But I think I'm gonna have to say live. Live is the thing that I always dreamt about when I was a little boy, and being able to travel is such a perk of the job. And I love meeting people. I'm a real people person. Like some of my favorite experiences have just been, just sat at like a bar or in a coffee shop chatting to someone like that I've met because of a
Yeah.
tour or from a totally different country. So like it has to be live for me. You can't beat playing live.
Cool. So would I be right in saying there's the new album out in about a week's time?
That's right. Yeah, literally next Friday, so the 25th.
So what's the album called? And just tell me, like, how long have you been recording it for? Where did you record it?
So it's the album's called Face in the Mirror, and it's our second album, and it's we started recording it last November in Seattle. Oh, actually, last November. Wow, actually, November of 2023 in
Right.
Seattle. So and then tinkering with it for the majority of last year,
Yeah.
basically scrapping it and redoing it ourselves. And it's been a long. It feels like it's been a long time coming. There's some songs on it. Since we finished it, since we handed it in, maybe about 6 months ago, because these things take a long time with getting the vinyl pressed and all of the back end sort of stuff. There's songs on it that I've totally forgotten that we ever did, and I listened back for the first time a couple of weeks ago, just out of kind of like out of curiosity. I was like, oh, I wonder what it's like. And I was like, oh wow, there's some amazing stuff on here that I'd like totally forgotten about, which was quite a nice feeling. It's actually
How,
it was probably the
I was,
closest I've been to listening as a listener who's not in the band, if you know what I mean.
how does it feel compared to when you put it side by side with the first album? Does it feel like a natural progression for the band?
I'd say so. Yeah, I'd say that we haven't tried to do anything. We haven't tried to do anything massively different, but just naturally by doing it longer, we everything's kind of gone exponentially. Um, yeah, everything's just that little bit better. I also think one thing that I'm quite proud of is we've covered like a lot of ground on it, like in terms of like album one was a lot of just like balls to the wall kind of just like early Foo Fighters-y sort of stuff. And
Yeah.
this newer one, we've go in all different areas. There's like a sort of ballady kind of slow song on there. There's some stuff that's like borderline like kind of like metal on there. There's some there's some really like steady kind of stuff that just feels really comfortable, like it kind of driving, but just like
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like maybe the band is a little bit more comfortable, like you have found your sound, you know what you are good at doing, and you have kind of
yeah,
used that for the second album.
yeah, totally. I think the thing that is apparent to me is like no for album one, we were asking a lot of questions like, oh, should this be one way or should this be the other way? Do we sound too much like this band? Do we sound too much like that band? Whereas for album two, all the only rule we gave ourselves is as long as both the Jameses like it, then that's us. That's fine. That's on. So it was really nice. So we both, like, as well, we like both brought different songs in, which was quite cool. Like some of I might have bought a song that was like 50% done. James B might
Yeah.
have bought a song that was like 90% done, and like there was different songs at different levels. It was really fun to just see what ended up making it. Yeah.
Yeah. There's another thing that the band does, which I really like, and it's funny. It depends who you ask. Some people it's not a big deal. Other people, like myself, I feel like it's still important. But the band still does a lot with their artwork. Like I like your old school posters and
Oh,
that
cool. Thanks, man.
and stuff. To me, artwork is still really important. To other people, it's depending on maybe when they were brought up, it's not as important. Depending
Yeah.
on how they maybe originally accessed music. I'm used to the old school of going into a record shop and you might buy something based on how the album cover looks because it's a cool album. But if you've been brought up in a time when you only ever accessed it through your phone, you might feel slightly different. But I like the old school kind of artwork that you guys do for your posters, and to me it's still important. Is it still important for yourself, artwork, do you think, in this day and age?
I think so. I think it's another chance to be creative and to kind of, for me, it always goes back to like emulating the bands I loved when I was like 15 and trying to like make my 15-year-old self like really excited. Like just the idea that like I'm in a band that has t-shirts and posters is like stuff of dreams,
Wow.
you know what I mean? And so I like never take that for granted. And
Yep.
I also love like going into like an old record store or like a practice room and seeing like old posters from over the years. Like it's so cool. And like I think there's a part of that for me that's like it's quite cool to be in a band and have it like, you know, it kind of lasts forever in that sense. You know, there could be a James and the Colgan poster next to an amazing old Nirvana poster in a record store
Yeah.
somewhere in 20 years from now, you know. It's a really cool feeling.
Yeah. It's cool because it's almost like it's viewed as retro a little bit because
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
back around, but I quite like that. I feel like it should never have left, if I'm being completely honest. But obviously, we're relatively early in 2025, so we've got the new album that's coming out next week. What is the rest of the plans for the year for the band?
We're so we head out on a headline tour next week as well, which would be great. That's kind of our first. We've done one in the past, but this one really feels like the first one where people will actually come. Like so it feels like our first proper headline tour. So that's going to be really exciting. Then we're at this kind of semi stressful point where we're in the running for a lot of cool things, but nothing's set in stone yet. And you're going to kind of protect your expectations because there's some stuff that would be like amazing if we got, but we're just waiting and see at the moment. But no matter what happens, we're going to make sure that we can play as much as possible because we love to do it. And I think once you see our band live, I think I think a lot of people. I think live is the place where it makes the most sense, and like I think is the place where people would potentially become supporters.
Yeah. Before we obviously end, because we've been talking about a lot of technical, musical things, for all the musicians that are watching, what I like to do is end things with some fun questions for yourself.
Cool. Nice.
So I'll ask the questions, you just tell me what pops into your mind. So imagine you've got a time machine. Imagine you could go back in time, anywhere in the world, big gig, small gig. I'll let you be the one to choose. What's the one gig that you wish that you could have attended?
Ooh, I think for me it would be one of my favorite bands is the Manic Street Preachers, but I like them kind of like what the early stuff when they were a bit more kind of just intense, and it would have been they played like I think they played like 2 or 3 nights at the Astoria in London in like '95. I think that would be a big one for me. I think they like. Apparently, it was like mega loud, super abrasive. I think they were touring the Holy Bible and like trashed the stage and everything. And I think that would just be a cool one to see for me.
That's cool. So as you know, thousands and thousands of great songs have been written and recorded across the years by different artists. What's the one song that you wish you could have sat in the recording studio to witness the band record the song?
Ooh, good question. Well, I'll try and think this quickly.
So many great ones. I mean, you could change your mind every day, but just for today, what's the one song that pops into your mind?
You know what? I'll just because it is a great song. It'd be really interesting to watch how Bohemian Rhapsody came to be. Like,
Yeah.
was everyone understanding the vision, or was some people scratching their heads and thinking like, what the hell is this?
I think it was maybe the latter, actually.
Yeah.
But, fine. For yourself, does a perfect album exist start to finish?
Ooh, yeah, there's a couple of albums that I could always put on and enjoy. Sometimes it's hard to know whether it's nostalgia though that also makes you kind of get as excited. It takes you back to a place.
Yeah.
But I do think, yeah, I think doing the actual song, the track listing and stuff on an album, and actually putting some time and care into that as an art as well.
Yeah. What's your favourite album cover?
Favorite album cover? Ooh, have I got a good one off the top of my head? Oh, this is tricky. Our new one, because I spent ages doing it.
That's a good answer. I like that. And Mount Rushmore for yourself. Who is the four bands, whether it be songwriting, performance, the overall package? Who are the four bands for yourself, today at least, that you just see as perfect?
All right, my four, I would say, Manic Street Preachers are one for me, definitely. They then I love there's this Canadian punk band called Propagandy who have just super talented, crazy lyrics. They're up there for me. Then I'm gonna throw in Thin Lizzy just because feels right.
Yeah.
And who was my fourth? I put it on. What was my fourth? Oh man. Soundgarden, definitely Soundgarden. Just because I listen to them all the time.
There you go, James. Well, thank you so much for coming on
Oh,
Saturday
no
morning,
worries.
waking up, speaking to myself.
Good way to start the day,
Obviously,
mate.
I wish you all the continued success in the future. For anybody that is watching, they can give your band a follow. You are on social media, James and the Cold Gun. Give yourselves a follow. They'll find out about any up and coming gigs, future releases, merchandise to purchase, all that good stuff. And of course, the music itself, it's available for download on all the normal streaming platforms as well. So they can check that out, support yous. And as I said, I wish you all the continued success. If you're up in Scotland playing at any point, give me a shout.
Oh, we
And
are actually. We're playing. Are you close to Glasgow?
I am, yes.
Oh, we're playing the Garage next Sunday, I believe. So if you want to come on down, give me a shout.
I was at the Garage about a month ago. I saw the Wild Hearts.
Oh, cool! Nice, nice, nice,
Yeah,
nice. We toured with the Wild Hearts a few years back.
my ears were absolutely ringing for like days after it. But
Oh, nice.
I had Ginger on the podcast a few episodes ago, and so he invited us along to the gig. And I wasn't a massive Wild Hearts fan, but I was afterwards because they put on such a great show.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Hell yeah. Well, yeah. Let me know if you're about. I'll check you on the list and all that stuff.
Cool, man. Well, James, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll keep a wee eye out on the band, and enjoy the rest of your weekend as well.
Oh, thanks, mate. You too. Have a good one, man.
Cheers, pal. Thank you.